You're listening to Unlocked Your Career by Design with Samantha Florence, Fortune 100 executive, billion-dollar business leader, and founder of Powerhouse Code. Here, you'll discover how to build authority, attract opportunities, and lead with authentic presence. If you're ready to claim your spotlight and step into your next level, you're in the right place. Let's unlock your career by design. Have you ever had a vision that's so big, so bold that it scares the shit out of you? And if you haven't, then you better start making that big, bold vision. Because what's going to catapult you to your next level of growth, to your next level, what you're absolutely capable of doing, but might unconsciously be holding yourself back? It's that big, bold vision. And so, when new members join Elevate You, I ask them, what do you want? Sometimes they don't. More often they don't. More often I hear, well, I know what I don't want. I don't want to feel stuck. I don't want to feel stagnated. I don't want to feel like I'm stalling. I don't. Okay, so tell me what you do want. Do you know how difficult that question is for some people? What do you want? It's like Olivia Pope in Scandal. If you've ever watched or seen that series, the one thing that Olivia Pope always asked people who had a challenge or had a problem was, what do you want? And 9 out of 10 people can say what I do. Or they can, but it's a very safe goal, my next step, my next job role. However, when you zoom out and you think about that big, bold vision that scares the shit pants out of you, everything becomes different. Why? Because logic doesn't have vision. And so we're conditioned to stay in our routine, to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, we both know that it doesn't work that way. And having a bold vision requires different things from you. It requires a different belief system. It requires different actions. It requires different thoughts, different behaviors. And it requires the most challenging thing, the battle between you and your brain day in, day out. Now, that might sound negative, but hear me out. Your brain is wired to keep you safe. Wired. And so your brain wants something that's predictable, something familiar, something that is known. Because when your brain has something predictable, familiar, and what is known, it can protect you, it can keep you safe because it's aware and familiar with those surroundings and situations. However, when you have that big, bold vision, it requires you to step outside of your comfort zone, embody a new mindset, embody a new behavior, take action, behaving differently, rewiring your belief system. Because doing the same thing over and over again, by now you know how to finish my sentence. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. According to Albert Einstein, not me. I do tend to agree with him, but I'm just saying it wasn't me. So anyway, you have this big, bold vision, or if you don't yet, start working on that big, bold vision because that big, bold vision will defy logic. It will defy your rational thoughts. It will make you do things out of the ordinary. So going back to Elevate You and the members that joined, we start with a big, bold vision. Why? First of all, you cannot score without a goal. So imagine you're a star football player or soccer, depending on where in the world you are. You might think soccer is the right word. You're the right soccer player. However, you don't have a goal. How on earth are you supposed to score? Like for real. How are you supposed to score if you don't have a goal? And so the purpose of the vision is so you have a North Star, something to work towards. But here's the thing. I always encourage and challenge my clients to make that vision so big, so bold, so badass that it requires them to come out of their shell out of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and start installing new behaviors, new thoughts, new actions, a new mindset and belief system. And then once that is, it's like taking out the old operating system, plugging in the new operating system, boom, let's go. Or it's like if you have an iPhone, whenever there's a new iOS update, you want to install that update, right? Because otherwise you can't download the newest apps or you won't have the newest technology. It might become slow, all of those things. So that vision is important. It's important for three things. Number one, it's your North Star. You cannot score without a goal. If you're the star football player, star soccer player without a goal, how can you win the game? You can't. That's the number one purpose, or the number one, that's the first purpose of the vision. Number two, it's not enough having a goal. The goal needs to be big, it needs to be bold, it needs to be badass. Why? Only then will you step outside of your comfort zone and do things that you might have not done before. And once you do things that you might not have done before, you can get a different result. Yeah? So let's make this tangible. When Ford built the first black car, if they did the same thing over and over again, it would have been a horse in a different carriage. It would have been maybe a carriage, the 2.0 version of the carriage. So they had to think different. They had to think outside of the box. The vision had to be so big and so bold. People could not imagine having a car, having a transportation with an engine, right? All they knew was horses. And so when Henry Ford had his big, bold vision of a motorized vehicle to transport people, like if you just thought about, okay, nowadays people transport themselves by horse, I can build a nice carriage. Okay, that's cool. However, he went one step ahead. He made this big, bold vision. I'm not going to build a carriage or a faster horse. I want something completely different. I want to reinvent something. Boom, the first car. So that's what I'm talking about. The vision needs to be so big and bold and badass that it requires something completely different from you. Because when you're doing something completely different, you're going to get a completely different result. And so, number one reason, or first reason, you need a goal. You cannot be a star player if you don't have a goal. You can't win the game. Number two, it needs to be big, bold, and badass. So it requires something completely different from you and you get out of your current way of operating. Taking out the old iOS, installing a new iOS update if you're an iPhone user, or even a new operating system, you're ready to go. The third reason, everything in life is strategy. Progressing your career is strategy. Advancing your career is strategy. Positioning yourself for the next role is strategy. Now, in order to craft a strategy, you need to know where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, you're going to be like a loose cannon, trying different things, doing different, and then wondering why you're not successful. Well, how do you measure success in the first place? So those are the three reasons for the vision. And like I say, you can start with a goal. Like even if you don't have that big, bold, badass vision yet, start with a goal. The goal is enough to get you focused. The goal is enough so you can build a strategy towards what you want to achieve, towards being successful. I do go one step further and challenge you to make it big, bold, and badass, because then all of a sudden you're not operating in your box anymore. You don't have that employee mindset. You step out of it and you surpass those limiting beliefs and borders of your comfort zone. So that's the purpose of the vision versus a goal. Because people come to me and say, I want to become a director, or I want to land a new job. Well, first of all, come to me when you want to advance your career, you want to grow your career, you want to grow yourself. Don't come to me because you need help with your resume. Then I will gladly refer you to someone else, right? So in Elevate You at a Powerhouse Code, we do deep work. deep work that benefits you for the rest of your life. So everybody who joins also gets lifetime access. So back to the vision. The vision is, what are you working towards? So imagine, just like at work, your department or your company has the yearly goals, or they have a 3-year plan or multi-year plan, or you have a performance reviews with your personal objectives. All of that is great. All of that is fantastic. But what about yourself? Because I talk about this all the time. Your career is not a one and done deal. It's a series of assignments, and you invest in your career. And so having that vision of where you're going, not only the next role, not only in the next 12 months, I'm talking 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. At the end of your professional lifetime, what is your legacy? What are you looking back to? And I'm going to give you a very tangible example. So back in 2017, yes, 2016, 2017, I don't even remember. 2017, I was a director. I was a director at Nike. I had a title, I had a job, I had a team, I had it all. It was fantastic. But I felt like I was stagnating, I wasn't moving forward, and I just felt stuck. And so, when you have everything on paper, you have the income, you have the salary, you have the job title, you work at a fantastic company, but I felt stuck. I felt like I wasn't growing, I wasn't moving forward. Yet everybody came to me with their problems, their challenges, their opportunities even, but it didn't feel like an opportunity to me. It just felt like I was there to do the job, go home, not get rewarded. That's how I felt. And what I really wanted was to make a promotion, or at least move to a new role, right? And I kept operating in this way of doing my job really well, and then better, and then better, and then better. Now, I've talked about this many times. It doesn't work that way. I know you know that it doesn't work that way. So I kept that up for a couple of years. And then I completely shifted the way I operated. I completely rewired my belief system. And then all of a sudden, I started thinking of not my current situation, but my vision. And I made the steps back. Okay, what are you talking about, Sam? You totally lost it. So I wanted to promote to senior director, right, in 5 years or less, because that was my vision. But then I started realizing, but hold on, that's the next step. But what is the step after the next step? And that's when I started thinking, well, what would it look like if I was a VP? Oh my God, no. And that even thinking about that felt scary to me. And that's when all my limiting beliefs started coming. Well, you couldn't possibly be a VP. That's what my little Sam told the current Sam. The one on your shoulder that's always blasting in your ear that you're not good enough, filling your mind with fear. Anyway, so I started thinking, well, I couldn't possibly be a VP. I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills. There are not people that look like me that are a VP. But here's the thing. If I don't believe I can be a VP, I will definitely not be a VP. And if I can be a VP, why on earth do I want to be a senior director to begin with? How does a senior director fit in my whole career journey? And so I started considering in my mind, in my vision of what would it look like to be a VP. And once I started doing that, it elevated me to a higher level because all of a sudden I wasn't focused on being a director, the best director. I wasn't even focused on being positioned or considered as a senior director. I started to think as myself, what would it look like? What would it feel like? What would I say if I was a VP? OMG. Completely different ball game. And that's why I always challenge my members to have that big, bold, badass vision. Because it's the big, bold, badass vision that's going to elevate you, get you out of your shell, and knock over that little version of you that's poisoning your mind with limiting beliefs. So once I started embracing even the possibility of me becoming a VP one day. That's when I started getting noticed by the VPs at a time who made a decision as to who gets promoted to senior director. I know, mind blowing. But that decision to plant in my mind that there is a possibility of me becoming VP made me behave differently, made me act differently, made me think differently. And so my complete belief system got rewired. And therefore, I started attracting different opportunities. And all of a sudden, that senior director role that I actually wanted to begin with, but didn't thought VP would be possible, it became possible. So that's what I'm getting at, that vision, because logic does not defy, well, if you focus on your logic, you're not going to get to the big, bold, badass vision. Putting it simply, because logic is keeping you safe. It's going to say, well, just go for the next incremental goal. Just go for the next goal. And then step by step, you'll get there. No, 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 no. We want to have that big, bold, badass vision that pulls you in a direction, that gets you out of your shell, and that makes you behave differently, act differently, think differently. Closing gaps between where you are now and where you want to go. And that's not going to happen if you think about your future from your current state. You need to think about it from your future state. So you need to imagine yourself time traveling into the future, catapulting yourself to, like stepping into a time machine, and boom, you're in the future, in that big, bold, badass future. So how do you act? How do you behave? Who do you hang out with? What's different? And then when you've spent enough time in that time machine, in that new reality, then you come back to the now and you start behaving that way. And watch how quickly opportunities start coming your way. Because you're now projecting yourself in the future and you're behaving as if you already have it. And people see that, people notice it. Okay? So it's good to have a goal, because you can't score without a goal. You need a North Star to work out your strategy. But what if you 10x'd your goal? You made the vision bigger. And then, well, not only then think it, dream it, but do it, embody it, step into that future you. What becomes different? That's it. That honestly, it's very simple. It's very simple. It's what is the fear that is holding you back? What are the limiting beliefs? And how is imposter syndrome ruling your life? And then once you let go of all of that, how this new version of you start to behave, start to act according to your big, bold, badass. I'm going to call it a triple B vision. Okay, that's my next newsletter, triple B vision, big, bold, badass. And if you cannot handle the word badass, this is not a place for you. The triple B vision, let's go. Because your triple B vision is going to pull you out of your current reality and give you the fuel that you need to acting differently, behaving differently, and thinking differently. Those are the three things. Because again, what got you here will not get you there. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. Not my words, Albert Einstein. I just happen to agree. And so that vision is pivotal on your journey, on your leadership journey, really, getting you to where you want. And it starts with it being crazy. You need a crazy vision, a triple B vision. I'm going to trademark that. You need a triple B vision, big, bold, badass. And then from that vision, you start working on your strategy, you start behaving differently, and boom, what becomes possible? So, challenge of the week. Here we go. First of all, what are you going to start thinking, doing, or thinking, doing, think, act, behave, think? What are you going to think and do differently according to your vision? That's it. That gets you closer to your goal. Let me know, as always, DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Let me know what's resonating. Let me know what comes up for you, what the highlights are. how you're implementing the weekly challenges, and also let me know if you want to address a certain topic. And as I talked about this, I'm thinking, I might need to dedicate a whole episode or a couple of episodes on the power that fear has over our lives. Why, Sam? I'm just trying to advance my career. Yes, of course. But as you step into your leadership journey, as you become a leader, you're going to be confronted with so many situations. Fear of speaking up, fear of sharing your point of view, fear of being judged, fear of overstepping, fear of, oh my goodness. Okay, I just got my next episode idea. I'll see you in the next one. Let me know what resonates. Let me know what you're implementing. Let me know if you want to see anything addressed. See you in the next one. You have been listening to Unlocked Your Career by Design with Samantha Flores. If today's episode sparked something, here's your next step. Follow the show and leave a 5-star review. That's how we reach more ambitious women ready to break barriers. And if you know a colleague or friend who needs this, share it with them, because lifting one woman lifts us all. Until next week, keep owning your spotlights.